Mac cost $1.60 in 1990. Today, it costs over $5. Nobody broke into your wallet. Nobody stole from you. So what happened? That, right there, is inflation at work. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly what it is, where it comes from, and why almost everyone gets it wrong. Stick around. This one is going to change the way you see every price tag, every paycheck, and every dollar in your pocket. What really is inflation? Among our first set of videos, we discussed what money really is. If you haven't seen it, you need to know that inflation is not a new phenomenon. It's been around for centuries. If you haven't seen it, you need to check it out. The link to that will be in the description below. So it is important to know that money is not valuable because it looks pretty. A dollar bill is just paper. What makes it valuable is what it can buy. That's it. A dollar is worth whatever a dollar can get you. Now here's the key question. What happens when a dollar can buy less than it used to? That is inflation. Simple definition. Inflation is when the general prices of goods and services rise over time, which means every dollar you own can buy a little bit less than it did before. Think about your weekly Walmart run. In 2010, maybe you spent $100 and came home with a full cart. Today, that same $100 might not even fill it halfway. You didn't get poorer overnight. Inflation quietly chipped away at what your money could do. Here's another way to picture it. Imagine you have a pie. That pie represents all the goods and services in the entire country. The food, the cars, the haircuts, everything. Now imagine the government prints more money and hands it to people. Suddenly, there are more dollars chasing the same pie. What happens? Each slice gets a higher price tag. Not because the pie got better, but because there's more money competing for it. That is inflation at its core. Key takeaway. Inflation is not about things getting more expensive. It's about your dollar getting weaker. Here's where most people stop and think they understand inflation. But wait, before you feel too confident, let's talk about the things almost everybody gets completely wrong. Some of these myths, even adults who have been working for 30 years still believe them. Now here's something that's going to feel completely backwards. Ready? A little bit of inflation is actually a good thing. In fact, the people in charge of the US economy at the Federal Reserve actually try to create inflation on purpose every single year. Why on earth would they do that? Not all inflation is born the same way. There are two main roads that lead to rising prices. Let's walk down both of them. First, demand pull inflation. This is the too many people chasing too few things version. Picture the PlayStation 5 launch in 2020. Millions of Americans wanted one. Sony couldn't make them fast enough. People were paying $800, $900, even $1,200 for a console that retailed for $500. That's demand pull. Demand pulled the price right up. When the whole economy works like that, lots of people with money, not enough stuff to buy, prices across the board start climbing. Everyone is spending. Sellers know they can charge more, so they do. The post-COVID reopening of America was textbook demand pull. People had saved money during lockdown. Businesses reopened. Everyone rushed to travel, eat out, buy stuff. Demand exploded. Supply couldn't keep up. Prices shot up. The second type, cost push inflation. This one comes from the other direction. Prices rise not because people are spending more, but because it costs more to make things. Think about oil. Almost everything you buy was transported by a truck, a ship, or a plane. All of those run on oil. When the price of oil goes up, whether from a war, an OPEC decision, or a pipeline shutdown, shipping gets more expensive. That cost gets passed right down to you at the checkout counter. The same thing happens when a drought hits. Farmers lose crops. Less food is available. Prices go up, not because people suddenly want more food, but because there's simply less of it. In 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, global wheat and oil prices spiked overnight. That was cost-push inflation hitting American grocery shelves within weeks. Key takeaway: demand pull. Too much money chasing too few goods. Cost push. It now costs more to make and move everything. All right, quick challenge. You now understand more about inflation than most adults do. But here's the question that trips up even smart people. How does anyone actually measure something as invisible as inflation? How do you put a number on the fact that life is getting more expensive? The answer is more fascinating than you'd expect. How inflation is measured. Every month, a team at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, a U.S. government agency, goes out and checks the prices of a very specific list of things that everyday Americans buy. That list is called the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. Think of it as a giant shopping cart filled with the stuff a typical American household spends money on. What's in the cart? Groceries, rent, gas, electricity bills, doctor visits, car insurance, movie tickets, clothing. Real stuff you actually spend money on. Every month they check, did the prices in this cart go up or down compared to last month, and compared to this time last year? If the cart that cost $1,000 last year now costs $1,080, that's 8% inflation. That's the number you see in every news headline. Now here's an important detail. Not everything in the cart is weighted equally. Housing and rent make up about 1/3 of the total. Gas, food, and healthcare are also heavily weighted. Why? Because those are the things that hit people's budgets the hardest. But the CPI isn't perfect. It doesn't always capture how quickly people swap expensive things out for cheaper options. If beef gets too expensive and people start buying chicken instead, the CPI might still be tracking beef prices. That's one reason economists debate whether the official inflation number tells the full story. Key takeaway: the CPI is the government's monthly report card on how expensive life has gotten, and it's the number behind every inflation headline you read. Good inflation versus bad inflation. Remember that twist from earlier? The Federal Reserve actually targets inflation on purpose. But why? Let's think about what happens in a world with zero inflation, or worse, with falling prices. That's called deflation. Sounds great, right? But here's the problem. If you know that the TV you want will be cheaper next month, what do? You wait. And if everyone waits, businesses stop selling. They stop hiring. They cut wages. People lose jobs. They spend even less. Prices fall further. It becomes a death spiral. Japan went through exactly this in the 1990s, an economy frozen by deflation. People stopped spending. Companies stopped investing. It took them decades to recover. So a small amount of inflation actually keeps the economy moving. It tells people, spend now, because waiting will cost you more. It encourages businesses to invest, hire, and grow. That's why the Federal Reserve has a specific inflation target of 2% per year. 2% is the Goldilocks number. Not too hot, not too cold. Enough to keep the economy humming without burning anyone's wallet. When inflation creeps above 2% for a long time, like the 8% and 9% Americans saw in 2022, that's when it becomes a serious problem. It eats into savings, it hurts anyone on a fixed income, and it forces the Fed to take drastic action. We'll cover exactly that in Part B. Key takeaway: a little inflation keeps the economy engine running. Too much sets it on fire. What the experts actually disagree on. Here's something nobody tells you in school. The smartest economists in the world don't always agree on inflation. They argue about it constantly. Let's listen in. The Federal Reserve economist. We need to raise interest rates aggressively to crush inflation before it becomes permanent. Short-term pain is worth long-term stability. The progressive economist. Raising interest rates punishes working families who need loans and mortgages. The real problem is corporate greed. Companies used inflation as cover to jack up profit margins far beyond their actual costs. The free market economist. The government printed trillions of dollars and then acted surprised when prices went up. Inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. Control the money supply and you control inflation. The behavioral economist. People's expectations about future inflation are just as powerful as inflation itself. If workers expect 8% inflation, they demand 8% raises. Higher wages push costs up for businesses, who raise prices again. It becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. 4 experts, 4 different lenses, all looking at the same problem. One focuses on money supply. One focuses on who gets hurt. One focuses on corporate behavior. One focuses on human psychology. They're all partly right. None of them has the complete picture alone. That's what makes inflation one of the most complex forces in the entire economy. It's not just numbers, it's human behavior, government policy, global events, and psychology, all tangled up together. Key takeaway: experts disagree because inflation is not one thing. It's the result of many forces hitting at once, and different experts watch different forces. Let's come back to where we started. That Big Mac, $1.60 in 1990, over $5 today. Now you know why. It's not that burgers got fancier. It's not that McDonald's suddenly got greedy. It's that the dollar got weaker, slowly, quietly, year after year. Here's what we covered today. Inflation is when your money buys less over time. It comes in two flavors: demand pull, where too many people chase too few things, and cost push, where it simply costs more to make and move everything. The government tracks it using the CPI, a monthly basket of real American purchases. We busted 3 big myths. Prices don't rise equally, governments aren't always to blame, and a salary raise doesn't automatically protect you. We heard from 4 experts who each see a different piece of the puzzle. The most important idea to walk away with: inflation doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock on your door. It quietly chips away at every dollar you own, every single day. Understanding it is the first step to fighting back. In Part B, we go personal. We'll look at exactly how inflation affects your rent, your groceries, your savings account, and who gets hit hardest and why. Plus, the practical moves you can make right now to protect yourself. Trust me, you do not want to miss Part B. All right, fam, let's take this home. If this video made inflation make a little more sense, hit that like button. It tells us you want more of this. Subscribe to Pennywise Planning. We explain finance in the simplest way. No jargon, just clarity. And drop a comment below. What did you think inflation was before watching this? Let's talk down there. Part B is coming soon. Watch out for it.